Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever felt that weird anxiety about money, even when on paper everything's going great? Well, if you have, you are going to want to stick around for this. We're about to break down an incredible framework that gets to the real source of that feeling. And honestly, it might just change how you think about success itself. So, to get right to the heart of this, let's start with a question that seems simple but really isn't. So, this is a question the author of our source material kept hearing from his friends. And you'd think the answer would be about money, right? But what he said was really surprising. He told them the real anxiety, the deep down stuff, didn't actually kick in until he was already getting super close to his financial goals. Okay, so what gives? If hitting the number on a spreadsheet doesn't get rid of the anxiety, then what does? Well, the author proposes this brilliant metaphor. He says we are all navigating our lives using two completely different maps, but most of us only ever pay attention to one of them. And here they are. On one side, you've got the absolute map. This is the clean, logical world of spreadsheets, numbers, and budgets. It's all about what you actually need, and it has a clear, definable finish line. But then there's the relative map. And this one is messy. It's the human world of social comparison, of status. This game isn't about what you need. It's about how you rank. And this one? Yeah, it has no finish line. It just goes on forever.
So let's start with that first map, the one most of us think of as the only map when it comes to financial planning.
The absolute map is it's beautifully logical. It's like being an engineer who's building a bridge. You do the math, you figure out the load it needs to carry, and then you build it. It doesn't matter if other people think the bridge is pretty or ugly. What matters is that it's structurally sound and it's not going to collapse. It is a purely rational thing. And the real power of this map is just its clarity. It gives you a defined finish line. It lets you track your progress, month after month. And maybe most importantly, it gives you a simple framework for making good decisions and for avoiding those really bad, catastrophic ones. But here is the massive twist. After more than a decade of meticulously following this very logical, very rational plan, the author had a stunning realization. It had only solved about 30% of his anxiety, which leads to the big question, right? If the math all checks out and the bridge is perfectly secure, why is there still so much unease? Well, the answer, of course, is hiding in that second, much trickier map. And this brings us to map number 2, where the rules of the game are completely different. Welcome to the endless social competition. You see, on this map, we stop looking at our spreadsheets and we start looking around at other people. We start asking questions like, what's my income percentile? How does my net worth compare to my friends? Where does my car or my neighborhood rank on the social ladder? This has nothing to do with need anymore. It's all about status. And what's so fascinating is how your spot on this relative map totally changes the game you're playing. The young and asset scarce, they're playing a go-for-broke game, swinging for those life-changing returns. The relatively wealthy, they're all about preservation. Just staying in the game is winning. But the middle class, they are stuck in what the author calls the awkward middle, trapped between the fear of losing what they've built and the burning desire to catch up. Now, this relative map is a really useful way to understand society, but it has a very dangerous psychological trap baked right into it. This trap is the infamous hedonic treadmill. It's what happens when our goals get hijacked. We start out working to satisfy our own needs, a safe home, good schools for the kids, clear internal goals from our absolute map. But then, slowly, we shift, and we start trying to win against other people. A bigger house than the neighbors, a fancier car than our colleagues. Suddenly, the finish line just keeps moving because we're not running our own race anymore. And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the core human challenge of comparison. It's not the billionaire we don't know that makes us feel inadequate. It's the success of someone right in our own social circle. It's raw. It's a universal feeling. And it is the engine of the relative map. So if we can't escape this relative map, and let's be honest, we're social creatures, we can't, what's the solution? Well, the author argues it's not about rejecting one map for the other. It's about finding a dynamic, intelligent balance. The key is to strategically choose where to practice contentment and where to deploy ambition. Think of contentment as an anchor. It's that inner awareness of what's truly enough for you, based on your own needs. It holds you steady in the storm of social comparison. Ambition, on the other hand, well, that's your sail. It's the drive that pushes you to learn and grow and explore. A ship with only an anchor never leaves the port. A ship with only a sail is lost in a storm. You absolutely need both. So, the crucial point is how to actually apply this stuff. This isn't just philosophy. Let's take a look at the author's personal strategy for balancing these two forces.
In finance, he uses what he calls a barbell strategy. 70% of his assets are in a stable, predictable core, like index funds. That is his anchor of contentment. The goal is simply not to fall behind. The other 30%, that's his sail of ambition. That part is used for the high-risk, high-reward bets and early-stage investment. For his health, he practices pragmatic contentment. So instead of chasing some extreme fitness goal like a sub-10% body fat percentage, which has diminishing returns and a high risk of injury, he just aims for 80% of optimal. He focuses on consistency with his sleep, his diet, and his exercise. The goal isn't peak performance, it's a long and healthy life. It's all about health span.
And even in relationships, he uses this dual approach. For breadth, he's ambitious, actively meeting new people to get new ideas and find new opportunities. But for depth, he's content, focusing on nurturing that small, core group of trusted friends for real emotional support. Ultimately, this all ties into a really profound idea. A lot of our anxiety comes from trying to win at life. But life isn't a finite game with winners and losers. It's an infinite game, where the whole point is just to keep playing, and to play in a more interesting and meaningful way. Contentment is realizing you have enough chips to stay at the table. Ambition is choosing to play a more creative and fulfilling hand. And this brings us right to the final takeaway. True freedom isn't about having zero anxiety. It's about finding that perfect sweet spot. Just enough ambition to push you forward, but not so much that it destroys your peace. It's the freedom to finally stop running someone else's race, to look at your own two maps, and to say, I'm ready to run for myself.